Welcome to FailCraft, the podcast where we dive into the messy, real side of success and explore how setbacks become the stepping stones to growth and clarity. So, today's guest is Amy Lenius, the director of group coaching at Next Level University. She's a speaker and a coach who helps people redefine success, but her wisdom comes from a very personal battle. Amy has navigated chronic illness since she was young, a journey that forced her to rebuild her health, her identity, and her self worth from the ground up. She is very open about the fact that true healing isn't always light and love. Sometimes it's about digging deep and getting honest. She's here to share how she turned those physical and emotional setbacks into a mission to help others align with their true potential. So, Amy, it's wonderful to have you on Fieldcraft today. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I love the name of your show. I'm actually really excited to be here.
All right, so let's get started. Your story is deeply rooted in your experience with chronic illness. So, you mentioned that this sets you on a lifelong journey of healing, not just physically, but mentally and spiritually. So, can you take us back to the hardest parts of that journey? What did hitting that physical and emotional rock bottom feel like?
Some of the hardest parts of that journey, I think, were how young I was when it started. So, really early adolescence and navigating that as a teenager who still wanted to do all the things, be all the things, and have fun and play sports and be with her friends. And low moments being, a big one that stands out is when I was told I may never have kids, that I would be stuck this way forever. There's no real cure, that I would be in pain for a really long time. And one of my only options might be to have a hysterectomy, but that can still not be an actual fix. And there was surgeries and different medications and things, and those were all really hard moments. But I always found ways to continue to keep doing the things that I wanted to do and keep pushing through to go and do all the fun things and have all the good times. And it may have been a little different and felt a little different than if I were fully healthy, but I still found ways. And then in my early 20s, I decided to just kind of stop everything that I was doing, everything I was on, and just kind of get to know my body again and see what would happen and see if I could find different ways of health. And that's where the journey really started changing into a more empowered state, into a more, I have maybe more control over my health and have more responsibility for my health than I initially thought. And it just kind of grew into this really beautiful journey of highs and lows that all healing journeys have. But it came out, really well. I learned a lot. I became an entirely different version of myself through that process. And I was able to heal and become pain-free. And so that was, obviously a really wonderful result, but it was quite a journey to go through.
All right. So, Amy, you say growth isn't always light and love, but so tell us, what was the grittiest, least comfortable part of your healing process that people don't usually talk about?
I think it's hard for people with chronic illness. We can stick on that through line with people with chronic illness to hear that someone kept going and someone pushed really hard to not be in this state of victimhood forever. And actually, that has been one of the most hardest things to swallow and hard to be a part of, because a lot of people, when you go into the chronic illness spaces or you try and offer, hey, this is what worked for me, maybe there's something here that could support you as well, and you actually get met with a lot
Mm,
of resistance. And I think that was one of the hardest parts for me, is when I wanted to start helping people and the resistance that was there of, oh, that's nice for you, but I can't be helped. Oh, that's so nice for you that you were able to do this thing, but that must be because you're special. It's not because it works for other people. And that, I think, was really, really hard to move through, because that goes against my core wound of being too much and losing love because of that. There's so many nuances that go into that. But it was the fact that people want to fight really hard for the vision they have for themselves and the labels that others have put onto them, but they've embodied. and they want to stay there. Not consciously, but unconsciously. They're fighting really hard to stay there. And I think that's where I got met with a lot of sadness. I think that hurt me more than my own stuff. And so seeing, again, there's so many highs and lows to this healing journey, but seeing that and realizing, hey, only so many people actually want to be helped. And you actually have to get them to want it and believe it before they can even start taking the actions to do it. And I always had what's called high self-belief, high self-efficacy. And so I didn't recognize that in others until I started learning more about people and learning more about how people function, what self-belief is, what self-worth is, what the layers of belief are, and why there was so much resistance. But when you're on a journey like that, those are some hard things to look at. There's some hard moments of, well, why do I have such low self-worth? And how has that shown up in my life? And there's some really detrimental stories that go along with that. But as you connect those dots, you heal. As you connect those dots, you start to recognize patterns that are no longer going to unconsciously run you. You can consciously start taking over. And those don't happen in fun and momentous moments. They happen in really dark ones, and they happen in moments of recognizing shame and negative patterns. But that's where all the magic can really happen. And that's where transformation really happens, is in those harder moments.
Fantastic. So, Amy, you talk about self-worth, self-belief, and consistency as your three pillars. So, which of those was the hardest to build when your body was fighting against you?
Self-worth, for sure. I didn't naturally have a lot of self-worth, and I didn't even recognize that until later on. I've only grown my self-worth over the last few years, and that's been a really big focus of mine because I had high self-belief. So high self-belief versus high self-worth. Self-belief is self-efficacy. It's what we believe we're capable of achieving in the external world. If you give me enough time, energy, money, and the effort to do so, I believe I can build a lot of things and create a lot of things. That's self-efficacy. Self-worth is an internal game. It's a lack of social courage, lack of boundaries, lack of believing in yourself in a different kind of way. It's comparison. It's not being able to invest in yourself. There's a lot that goes into low self-worth. But I had a good level of self-belief first. I learned to be consistent through what it took for me to get healthy. And then coming in and onto the work that I do now, we do a lot of habit tracking and consistency goals and things. And so consistency came second. And then recognizing where I was being met, the ceiling of my low self-worth. And that had to grow. And over the last few years, growing my self-worth, that internal game that is, that has been extremely life-changing and just kind of the icing on the cake of those three pillars. And when we're working with people, let's say in group coaching or in our coaching programs, we see and you can assess people's level of self-worth, self-belief, and their ability to be consistent. And we help them grow that. I think people, when they hear that I had high self-belief growing up and why I was able to do all the things that I was able to do and to heal and be consistent, they think, oh, but I don't have high self-belief. That's okay. Maybe some of us are born with a certain level of self-belief, or our upbringing builds a certain level of self-belief in us, but we are not stuck at a certain level of self-belief. You can build more belief in yourself and in your abilities. And that's a simple formula of just keeping the promises you make to yourself every day. And it's just state, prove, self-assign. Say you're going to do something, get it done, and then have this little moment of, nice, I did the thing I said I was going to do. And if you can run that pattern and that cycle for like consistently with just little things in your day every day, you will start to build self-belief. And that one is key for not only growing self-worth, but for consistency as well.
All right. So, Amy, how do you help clients distinguish, between performing personal development, just checking the boxes, and actually living it, especially when they are facing a setback?
To embrace the setback, to not ignore it, to not kind of blow over it or internalize it as, see, I can't do this thing. There's so many. It depends. It depends on their level of self-belief, their level of self-worth, where they're at, what their core wound is. All of that is really, really valuable and important to know about yourself. If you don't know those things, it's worth going into and discovering for yourself. But it's more supporting them on the journey and to let them know that it's really actually normal. We all have those highs and lows and we all hit those moments of struggle. And that is just such a natural part of the journey. I think a lot of people think when they hit these moments, these hiccups, that the journey isn't for them or they're not good enough to make it happen, when in reality, it is just such a normal phase of the growth journey. And I don't know, I just kind of celebrate people when they get there because they get to see that that's how everyone got to where they are. If you're looking at people who are maybe ahead of you on this journey and they think, oh, that must have been so nice, or oh, they got there so smoothly, I guarantee they didn't. They had moments of highs and lows. And anyone who has gone through the journey that you yourself are looking to go on, if they're ahead of you, I know that they would happily tell you about those highs and lows so that you don't feel so alone.
All right, really great response. So, you mentioned honoring your cyclical nature. So, how did learning that help you stop fighting your body and start working with it?
That deeply ties back to my healing journey. So my chronic illness is very female hormone driven. And so learning all about women's cyclical nature has been not only life-changing for myself, but life-changing for the women that I get to like the honor of speaking into their life or even coaching, is teaching them that they are these cyclical beings. You are different week to week to week, mentally, emotionally, and physically. And some weeks you're set up for certain kinds of success, and some weeks you're just not. And it's not because you suck. It's not because you need to have this internal shame around your capabilities or anything. It's just because you actually are physically set up to be doing something different. And so sometimes we have to fight against our own natural nature to do the things we need to do and get the things done that we want to get done. But when you understand that during certain times of the month, you are set up cognitively for more success, physically for more success, emotions run smoother, you have more capacity, then in other times you can have more grace and understanding rather than shame and guilt for the constant wavering that is women's mental, emotional, and physical state. So empowering people and women with that information and their counterparts, if they have them, is such a superpower for the women and their people in their lives. And so again, just that piece of self-awareness. I always come back to self-awareness, you understanding your physical, mental, and emotional self and how that works and how it shows up in the world. That's a huge piece of it for people, is that physical, cyclical nature. And it is extremely valuable to understand those things about yourself.
All right. So, for the person listening, who is in the thick of a health battle or a deep personal struggle right now and feels like their body or mind has failed them. So what is the first step to reclaiming their power that you would recommend?
First, that you're not alone in feeling that way. It's a really natural place to be when you're on a wellness journey or you're in a journey of just being really sick and not knowing what to do next and where to go and who to turn to. So you're not alone in that, but also that you are your own advocate. It is your responsibility to become empowered with information about you, how your condition works, and how you can heal. And you can go to others to find that. I'm not saying you have to have all that information yourself, but find people who actually feel like they're invested in your journey and invested in your health and can help you go forward. So after I started to really dislike the system I was in and the treatments that I was being offered, I moved out of that and I started playing around just with other modalities of wellness. I found a naturopathic doctor. I found all these different kinds of things that helped me heal. And I collected a team of people that really felt like they were on my side and really wanted to help me heal. And that was incredible. So find people who are actually invested in your journey and just trust that you know yourself best. You know your body best. Even if you can't articulate it at a high level, that's okay. Self-empowerment is so important. And you being an advocate for your own physical and mental health is your job and it is your responsibility. And the sooner you can step into that, the more empowered action you're going to take.
All right. So, Amy, after navigating illness and now leading others to their potential, I'd like to know, what does being successful truly mean to you now?
I love the word success because it's very subjective. Everyone's version of success looks a little different, but I think the feelings around it are
Yes.
all very, very similar, right? It's that feeling of fulfillment, it's that feeling of accomplishment, of quality of life. And to me, it is. It's that quality of life that is very aligned, being able to say yes to the things I want to say yes to, no to the things I want to say no to feel abundant, not just financially, but in all areas of life, because I deeply believe in holistic success and holistic fulfillment. So being healthy, being financially abundant, but also being in love and healthy relationships and have a healthy family. I feel like they all go together in a true version of success. It's not just monetary. And that to me is how and when I feel successful is when all of those things are going really well and really abundant.
Oh, wow, that's a really amazing one. Great one there. So, for our listeners who want to connect with you, join the Next Level Nation community, or learn more about your coaching, so where is the best place for them to go?
At Next Level University, we have all sorts of wonderful communities. We do have our free Facebook group. It's private, but it is free. And we keep it private because we want you to feel safe there. We want you to feel safe to struggle and also feel safe to be celebrated in your success. There's daily self awareness posts in there. And I myself run that group. So I'm the one in there posting for you every day to just bring you that little bit of self awareness. The more you understand about yourself, others, and the world, the more you can navigate to your version of success. And so anyone is welcome there if you kind of are looking for that level of daily self-awareness and growing yourself in that way. But also I'm just at Amy Lenius on Facebook and Instagram, and my DMs are always open.
All right, Amy, this has been such a healing conversation, and I'm indeed excited to have you on the podcast.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me.